everybody. This is too funny. It's too funny. Okay, so we're at part 2 of our miniature quilt series, and we're going to be doing card tricks today. I have done the pattern in 2 sizes for you. In class, and for those at home, I'm going to be going through the instructions on how to do this size. This is a 4.5-inch finished block. Okay, I want you to start with this size block so you can kind of get the technique down, get your pressing down, little helpful hints in that. Then after you master this one, you can go and do this one. Okay, this is a 1 1/4-inch finished block. Exactly the same technique. It's really not that hard to do, but I'll be going over some little helpful hints on that as well. Okay, so you inspired?
Yes. Yes, looking forward to it.
Yeah. Just to show you what the difference of the blocks look like, it kind of gives you a better feeling about this. This is the block we're going to be working on today. And this is the other little block. See why we didn't start with this one? Okay, we're going to start with this one. So you guys all have your patterns?
Yes.
Okay, for those of you that aren't here, it's going to be available to download your pattern off the internet. It will be a PDF file, and it will be for free. So don't think that you have to madly write down every single measurement I'm going to tell you. Okay, so we're going to start out in the center of our block. We're going to start out right here, and you can tell that that's a 4-patch, okay? When you break down these blocks, you know, just to the basic components of them, it makes them so much easier than if you go, oh my gosh, that looks so complicated. If you just know where to break it down, you're good. So we're going to start with our colors, and we have, first we're going to have the red and the blue. So we have the red and the blue. And we're just going to flip the red right sides over to the blue, and we're going to sew with a 1/4-inch seam going down. Okay? I'm going to put those blocks aside for right now. And then we're going to repeat that process for the purple and the green. Okay? Flip that right sides together. So just in the sake of time, I went ahead and I did go ahead and I sewed those already, so you didn't have to watch me do it. I'm being really good Eleanor right now. I'm throwing that over the side. Okay, so that's it sewn together. And there's pressing instructions always. You're going to press towards the purple or towards the red, depending on what you're doing. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer them. And I want to layer it so that the green and the purple is on the bottom, and I'm going to take the other strip set and I'm just going to layer it right on top. This time I'm going to be locking my seams. And I always like just to flip it back to make sure I have the right color next to each other. You want the seam on the top to be going away from you, okay? And I'm going to cut these into little segments. You need 1 segment for each block. So we're doing 12 blocks, so you're going to make 12 segments, right? Okay, so these are going to be made at 1 3/4 inches. Okay, so we're just I'm just going to cut just a few just to give you the idea. Okay. And you might just want to go ahead and, you know, cut 1 or 2 just to get it done, or you can do all 12 at once, whatever you want. Okay, so once it's cut, I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to sew. And I always like to sew with a small stitch length, like 2.0 or 1.8. And I also like to use a scant 1/4 inch. When you start doing your miniatures, any fabric that you might lose on your fold, that could be a big difference, especially when you're dealing with a block like this. You can't afford to lose any of that fabric. So make sure that you move your needle over. And if you can't move your needle over, then you need to adjust the placement of the edge of your fabric on your foot. Okay? All right, so we're going to start sewing. And you can just go ahead and assembly line sew these. I'm sewing on the new Aria. I have had a Crescendo for about a year, which is this machine, but it has a little laser light to it. So I'm pretty familiar with how it works. But it's fun to watch Eleanor get so excited about all the new features. It has some great things, especially this lighting. Sometimes I think it's almost too bright for the camera guys. Okay. So it's all sewn, and then what we're going to do is we want to reduce that bulk in the middle. So we're going to open it up face down. And can you see how this seam is sewn down this way and this one is sewn up? where you want them all to go in a circular motion. In this case, it's going to be clockwise. So you don't even need to remove those stitches. If you just push this one this way and this way, it just pops open. Okay? So it's nice and flat. I'll do it for both of them. See, I know you can do this already, right? Okay, I'm just going to give this a good press. Be cautious when using steam when you're doing the miniatures as well. You can't really afford any distortion either. So if you do use steam, just respect your steam. Don't be ironing back and forth, you know, just like a straight down type of thing. As I go back and forth, but I'm already down. I don't have steam on. I have no steam. Okay, so now we're on page 3. So you're on page 3? And I'm going to square up this center patch. And I chose my measurements just so it would be really easy to use our tools to square it up. And in this case, I'm going to use this little 2.5-inch fussy cut because that's the size we're going to cut it up. And I can, right where these lines that are marked on the ruler, right where they cross, they just go right in the middle of your block. And there's also little hash marks around halfway down the sides, and those will go on your seams of your 4-patch. So it's really easy to keep it straight. You just do 2 sides, and then you just lift your fussy cut, turn it around, and put it back down. So that's if you have one of these fussy cuts, that's how you're going to do it. But you might not have that tool. You need it, but you should get one because it's very useful. If you have just a regular 6-inch square up ruler, you can do that. So you have 2.5, and you have to think, what is half of 2.5? Well, it's 1 1/4, right? So we're going to put our 1 1/4 line, count over here is 0, go over 1 1/4 here, 1 1/4 here, okay? We can also use that diagonal line as a reference point to make sure we're going down the center of our 4-patch. Okay, so again, just tilt your template, turn your patch. I think that's where people get kind of mixed up about it. They want to like turn their template and turn their patch, but you always just turn your patch. Okay? So that's 2 ways to get into the same thing. Okay? Both of them work. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, you're already on page 4. We're moving right along. And I think I put too many pieces of my fabrics away because I don't have it. Sorry, I'm going to have to leave. I tried to clean up my desk really good, but I got rid of too much. I was doing so good. Huh? Orion's going, okay, she's fired. She's out of here. Yeah, show the quilt. Where's my piece? Oh my gosh, I was doing so good.
You can make my one.
I can make your blocks. Okay, I brought extra just in case I run out of something else. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start with our blue. And what I've done is I stacked up all of my patches so that my blue is in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, then I'm just going to take my blue 1.5-inch strip, and I am just going to assembly line sew these. I flip it over, right sides together, and I'm just going to sew down. Okay, I like to leave a little bit of space between my patches because it's really hard for me to make that slice right in the middle, so I kind of make 2 cuts. All right. I thought my desk looked awfully clean. You know what I mean? I was going, can this be all I need? All right.
Do you find assembly line sewing and trimming is better than cutting to size?
I do. Because, well, in certain cases. On this case, I do. And the reason being is sometimes if you cut things to size, you might find you're either stretching the piece that you cut to size or stretching your patch to fit it. And I'm trying to avoid that distortion when I can. Okay, so as you can tell by looking at it, I have just a little bit of blue between. Right. So I'm just going to trim that out. And you always want to cover your patch when you do your trimming because you don't want to accidentally cut. So you do whatever you can to cover your patch up. At least one side you can. Okay? So there's that. Okay, so we have our blue side on. I'm just going to press these so that they go away from the patch. Okay? And please check and make sure I'm actually doing what I said before all those other people download it. Okay? So that's what that looks like. Now I'm going to repeat with the other side, and I'm going to add the green doing the same thing. Okay? So I just lay out my green strip. Then I'm just going to flip these right sides together. Again, I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam going down. This is pretty easy, huh?
When you're organized, it's always easy.
When you have all your pieces, it's easy too.
Oh, that's how we did this with Mackie.
Hmm?
We did this class in the big one when Mackie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mackie did the big one. When I first did the little miniature one, Mackie was in my class, and she was determined to make that little quilt. It was so cute. I had put that little miniature quilt, my little card tricks one, in a quilt show, and it never made it home. See, it's the size of that one. Somebody has it at their house. That's all I can say. And I hope that they're thinking of me every time that they
Probably are, and they're saying.
and I hope they're being very guilty about it.
I don't know, I entered a hand swap shirt to the fair.
Fair. I know. Okay, so I'm just going to press this away from the patch again. Okay?
You want to be sad?
Want to be sad?
They go in the garbage if you don't pick them up.
It's not that, the store delivered
The-
them and the
at
store
fair?
picked them up.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the pile.
Yeah, I used to enter photographs and things like that in high school.
Yeah.
And they tell you, they send you a letter, and the teacher reads it, and you have to go pick up all your sculptures and all that stuff for the possible.
That's pretty sad.
It was a sewing store, picked them up and delivered them and it wasn't.
Okay, so now we're going to make these other two sides. But before we just sew it on, we need to sew some background pieces to both sides. So there's for our red. Our red is actually going to go on this side. Okay, so I went ahead and I did sew those just to save some time. And then we're going to do the same thing for our purples because we need to sew to our red side and our purple side. Okay? So I just went ahead and I'll sew both strips, and I'm just going to layer cut these, and they're going to get cut at 1.5 inches. Okay? So I'll cut a couple off. I'm just making the edges nice and even. Okay. This chair seems to want to roll on me today. I'm not used to it. My one at home's like kind of carpet thing, so it doesn't roll that easy. Okay, so we can just lay these out to get a visual what it's going to look like. And since we've pressed our seams away from our background, you can see how everything's going to lock up for us. So that'll be a good thing to do. Now, when you're doing the real little ones, I recommend that you pin all these intersections. And the pieces are so little that you're actually just hold on to the pins. You're not even holding on to the fabric. You're holding on to the little ball of the pin.
Do you recommend using a smaller needle when you're doing the teeny weeny ones?
Yeah, I did. And in fact, I wrote that on the cover of your pattern to make sure that you changed your needle. the last thing that you want to do is use like a big jeans needle, you know, like a size 14.
Yeah. So you use a size what?
I use a 70 over or 75 over 11. Seems to work well for me. And you can just assembly line sew these. Having the seams lock really help it keep in place. I try and avoid using pins because I'm really bad about taking them out. I like to sew over them until I hit one, and then it scares me. Okay, so I got the red side on.
Do you sell needles here?
Oops. Oh, no, I did right. I thought I did it upside down. Yes, we do. We do sell needles here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add the purple on. Just flip it right sides together. Yes, and I found this great piece of 5-inch acrylic yesterday that's going to work really good for squaring our blocks up today. I was really excited. Okay, check, make sure that you got red next to red. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add the purple on. These blocks are kind of addicting, I'm warning you. Okay, so I'm going to press this with the iron. See how it looks? Looks pretty good, huh? You'll have these blocks in no time. Okay, I'm just going to set my seams. Now open them up. Whenever you do your pressing, it's always away from your 4-patch, so it's easy to remember. Once you get that 4-patch done, anything else you need to do.
Do you recommend using any kind of like starch or sizing when you're doing
I don't. I think if your fabric is real loosey-goosey, I think that would be a great idea to use some sort of sizing to stiffen it up. Or if you pre-wash your fabric, it's always good to put some sizing back in. I typically don't pre-wash my fabric because I don't seem to have time to pre-wash my fabric. It's from bolt to project. But it's definitely not a bad idea. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we have these 3.5-inch squares that you'll have in your kit. I did not go ahead and cut those on the diagonal because that's exposing your bias, and I didn't want that getting warped in there. But what you're going to do, each block is going to use 2 of these squares cut in half, and you're going to go ahead and sew one of these on all 4 sides. Okay? Now these they're going to seem like a little bit small, but we're going to be squaring up our block, and it's going to become apparent pretty soon why they don't need to be bigger than they are. And when I do these, what I like to do is I like to just do like 2 opposite sides first, okay? And I am going to sew it with the triangle down. We always recommend that you sew with the bias next to the feed dogs. It helps give a really even feed going through. So I'll do one side, and then I'll go ahead and do the other side, okay? And it doesn't really matter which side you do first. That's good to know, right? This chair is so high, I feel like a real little kid today.
Do your feet touch the floor?
No. We were on an airplane recently, and it was some foreign airlines, and my feet did not touch the floor on the chair. Ken thought it was very funny that I could swing my legs like a little kid. And it was pretty funny. But Orion probably never has that problem.
No.
If anything,
Well,
if anything, his knees are in the middle of the seat in front of him. Sometimes when we're to the point the seats are real close, we'll get Ken an upgrade to at least he can't have economy plus or something. You know, it doesn't really matter to me. My legs never hit the seat in front of me. Yeah, on this fabric, make sure that you really are checking which is right and wrong. It's real close, but you'll notice it when you go to put your blocks together. You go, oh no, I got one upside down. Can you see I just cut off the back and go through? I don't even take them all out. Okay, so open them up. So we got those two in. I want to give it a good press. Okay, we just have little bits of these tips hanging out. And I don't want them to be caught on the 1/4" foot when we go to sew the next thing on. So what I'll do is I'll just take my ruler and I'll just trim those off, just straight. It's not much, but it can cause your fabric to move where you don't want it to when you're sewing. Cool. There goes my ruler. And I don't know if I told you to actually trim your points, so you might want to take note of that. Danger, danger. All right. Go ahead and load those two on as well. I need one of those guards, huh, Ryan?
You just did it different than your knee.
Yeah, that's all.
And the blade is on the other side too, so it's, you know.
Yeah. I had a woman in yesterday. She came in while we were doing the AccuQuilt retreat, and she was so sweet, and she really wanted to make her daughter a baby quilt. And her daughter's a quilter, and she's not really a quilter. And she didn't want to ask her daughter how to do it because she wants it to be a surprise. And she was so darling. So she goes, does anybody give lessons and stuff? And I knew I was going to be packing machines the first part of this week. And I said, well, can you come in and I'll get you started, you know? So she's over there, and I was trying to explain to her about closing your blade and, you know, correct cutting, starting close to you and cutting away, because the next thing I saw, she was going like this. And I told her this story about one time when we were in Houston. There was a lady that had left her blade open on this side, and I was demonstrating here, and she reached over and she cut all 4 of my knuckles with her rotary blade. And she kind of goes, oh, she didn't have her blade open again. Every time it was in her hand, it was put down, that blade was closed. So, but she was cute. She's making a Toss 9 patch. She was just so excited. So she has a new rotary cutter. She has a new mat. She has a new rulers. So I think it was a good move, don't you?
Yeah, she started fresh and nice because you don't have to untrain.
Yeah. So she was going to go home and work and come back next week, show me her progress. She has homework. I had found out since I talked to her the first time that we had a beginning class on Tuesday mornings with Luann. I thought, oh, that would be great. But she's watching. She goes, no, I just want to talk to you. I'm okay. But she'll be fine.
I teach one of Mackie's students, and she had given up quilting when Mackie passed away. And I said, well, look, Pat, if you ever want to start quilting again, I'll help you one-on-one. Because Mackie used to work with her one-on-one.
Right. Okay, so These patches, our blocks finish at 4.5 inches. So that means we're going to square them up to 5 inches. So I found in our warehouse this clear piece of acrylic, just the same depth as a regular ruler. And all you do, it comes with paper on both sides. So you just basically just peel the paper off. When they get printed, they have paper just on one side, right? Don't we peel one half off, they get printed, and then the other half comes off? Okay, so you just have a plain piece of thing. And then all I did is I took my Identi-Pen and I just drew an X right down the middle of it. Okay? So when I put this on my block, I just put that X right on top of that center. And then you know exactly, you don't have to read any numbers. They're under $2, these little things. It's well worth it, I think. I put a whole stack out there in case you're interested.
Oh, yeah. Remember that item number?
3032. Ryan goes, write it down, write it down. I was glad he made me write it down because I would have gone, oh, darn, what was that number yesterday?
That's great, thank you.
Okay, so one thing I really want you to notice as I'm doing this, I am cutting off this little tip right here, okay?
Right.
Typically, we would cut like a 1/4 inch away from that, but since it's background on background, it doesn't really matter. If you can come up after class and look, but this is cut off, okay? So that makes it really nice. Now, if you don't have one of these things, let me show you how to do it with a regular 6-inch square up. Okay, again, we're going to start with 0 in the corner. And if it's being squared up to 5 inches, what's half of that? It's 2.5, right? Okay, so we're going to line up our 2.5 inch, right? So it goes down the middle. You can use this one diagonal that we do have printed. You could use that as a guideline. And we'll do 2 sides. Turn it around. And it works good to use this one, but I just, as clean as my templates can be, it's the better for me. Then I don't have to think about things, right? There you go. And that's how we make our blocks. And that's the end of our webinar.
Wait, what about the small one?
Well, the small one, basically it's done all the same way. The important thing is that when he didn't get the turn off the phone message. For your little 4-patch right in the middle, I have you start with 1-inch strips. And then what you're going to do, remember how we squared this up to 2.5 on our bigger one? This gets squared up to 3/4 of an inch. Okay? The strips that we add are 3/4 of an inch. And then these right here, I made these really oversized to make it easier to square up, and those are at 1 3/4. And there is actually a separate handout that you're going to get that just talks about the mini. I was going to combine it and have like a chart, big, little, but all the numbers look kind of little that I didn't want you accidentally cutting one when you really wanted to do a different size. So there's another whole thing for you to look at then, and that will be available for download as well.
So I wasn't paying attention, but did you say that you trimmed your seam allowance down?
Oh, no, I didn't. Thanks for mentioning that. I do. I trim my seam allowance down to 1/8 of an inch because you've got to reduce this bulk back in here on the inside in your 4-patch. So when you do trim it back, you really want to press your fabrics in the direction you want them to go in and then cut it back. Because once it's cut back, you have just this little piece you're trying to train to go that way or this way. So make sure you press, then trim. Thank you, Orion, for remembering that.
On the other one, you don't have to trim?
This one you don't really need to trim. It really wasn't an issue. See how the seams are nice and big.
Is there ever an instance with miniatures where you press seams open?
Only if it was a full-size block that you, for some reason, you'd press it open. Let's say like day and night where we press those seams open, you would do the same things to miniatures. But just going from a full-size block to a miniature block, there really is no added thing to do that. And if anything, you want that locking seam whenever you can because that gives you more control of matching your seams. Once you open seams, it can slip either way. Any other questions? Alrighty, you ready to go sew?
Yes.
Alrighty. Thank you.